Good day, dear listener. I hope to bring you an entertaining experience with this fictional story. If you like this content, please like and subscribe to this channel. You may also find my other works available on Amazon.com and Kindle Unlimited. Please see the description below for links to my other published works. This reading has been written and narrated by Joya Chantry. All copyrights reserved. This selection was written for the purpose of being read on YouTube by the author. No others may use this material in any way without written permission from the author or their subsidiaries. An ebook copy of this collection will soon be available for sale on Amazon.com and Kindle Unlimited. For now, sit back and enjoy the adventure. Secrets of the Mountain. What do you mean you cannot find her? She is but one plain human woman, and you are claimed to be the best trackers in the world. Novell bellowed. Lambert looked at him without fear, and he had to admire the man's courage. I have 6 of my best trackers working on it. She left the continent and is running faster than even my people can track her. She has doubled back on us a score of times. I can't keep up with this without more people. You need more people to trap her and bring her to me, unharmed. He could see where this was going as he turned to his brother, ordering, "Give him the funds. Send one of our guards for each of his. I want assurances she is not harmed in this chase." When Novell looked back to the tracker, he lowered his voice, warning, "If she is harmed, you will die." The man didn't flinch as he stated, "We never miss our mark." Novell turned his back to them as he stared out the lead glass window to the sun setting over the mountain. When he got her back, he swore that she would never run from him again. This was the last time she would ever get away from him. He wasn't going to do this with her every time they disagreed on something. He wasn't going to keep wondering and fearing the worst. She would find a way to start talking to him, or he would assure that she never left here again. If that meant chaining her to the wall, he would do it. His fire was blazing inside him as he heard his brother's calm voice behind him. Chaining her to the wall will not work. You need to speak with her and find her reason for running. I did not say I would chain her. Novell snarled, more annoyed that his brother knew what he was thinking. There is a reason she left. You need to find that reason and work through this with her. You cannot fight with her, or she will keep running from you. Calm your temper before I get back, or I give my word that I will be the one that takes her out of here. And the next time, she will never be found, if it comes to that. His brother warned. Novell could see his brother's anger with the situation as he looked at the reflection of the man through the window. Saruman wasn't his second for the game. His brother was the only person capable of taking down his enraged dragon. The same dragon that was pushing to come out of him at this very moment. The same agitated dragon that wanted nothing more then to hunt down his mate and return her to their lair. The impossibilities of that played through him as he growled, "I will bring her back. Just calm that beast before she gets here." Corry looked around her again as she was thankful that those stupid hunters hadn't caught her. She didn't understand why they kept coming after her. She wasn't a criminal, and she sure as hell didn't have the gall to stand up to what she was running from. Now that she thought about it, there was one reason those hunters were after her. Why would he come for her now? She fulfilled her contract to that damn beast. She had made her position clear. She wasn't sticking around after she filled that bloody contract. She didn't care what they said. She had rights, and those rights meant that she could and would leave to live her own life. So why were they still chasing her? Corry kept herself firmly in the middle of the crowded street as she made her way to the subway. The one thing she had discovered was that the more people around her, the less they could track her. That meant that if she wanted to live, then she needed to remain with a ton of people, and she needed to keep on her toes. Finally making it onto the subway, she found a comfortable seat and tried to blend into the crowd. She needed to keep her head down and her hoodie up. She was watching every face, every move everyone made. There was no telling how many were chasing her this time. Thankfully, she had managed to get on a nice, long-distance subway track before they had realized she was gone again. Smiling to herself, Corry let her eyes close as she took a little nap. They weren't scheduled to stop for 6 hours. That meant that she could get some rest before she had to come up with her next strategic plan to get back home before they found her. Every time she woke up, she jumped and began panicking. The worst part was the fear that she was going to be caught. Looking around, she could see that almost everyone was sitting quietly resting. She was still safe, at least until she was forced to use her ID to cross the border. She had figured out that had been how they were tracking her. She went to the lengths to find another American woman that looked like her in that foreign country and was sly enough to switch IDs with her. If she was lucky, the woman wouldn't know for some time. That may get her to another country or two before she would need to find another way to avoid those hunters. When the train stopped, Corry was right in the center of the departing passengers. She could see that the open platform wasn't going to keep her safe for long, and decided to take a detour. It wasn't hard to spot the 3 huge hunters that stood 6 feet tall, especially in this heavy Asian-based country. The 3 of them stood out like a sore thumb in the shorter stature of this Asian population. That meant that Corry had to keep her head down and get herself back in the center of another crowd. She couldn't allow them to find her here. She needed to get to a more populated area where they wouldn't track her. The issue with that was that she had no idea where she was, or even what country she was in this time. She had her goals, and she was going to find her way back home. It was the last thing she did. A hand on her shoulder had her jumping as a familiar voice spoke close to her ear. "Corry, it is time to go home." It ain't my home, she yelled back. It is, and you need to start talking with him and stop running. It's dangerous for you to run like this. Corry shook her head. I fulfilled that contract. I'm free of that place. I just ain't doing it. So just leave me alone. I gotta get back home. You took the path now. You need to face it. He will not stop until you return to him. He's not going to hurt you if you just take the time to hear his side to this, Sarman offered softly. Corry shook her head. I don't want to go back. You can't take me back there. It won't be with my cooperation. I gotta go back to my home, not yours. Corry, stop running and come home. No one understands why you are running like this. Will you explain this to us? He asked quietly. Still frozen in place, she shook her head as she answered. No! I filled my end of that contract. Now I just want my life back. I gotta go. You don't understand. I just gotta go back. It's my home. There's stuff there. Please, I just gotta go. This is about more than a contract. No, this was about that contract and how I refused to extend it. He asked me and I told him no, that I didn't want to continue with it. I told him that I was leaving and agreed to, and he just didn't have a choice because that was written within the contract that he signed. Now, take your goons and leave me alone. I'm going home. You ain't gonna take me back to that damn mountain. I'm going back to my home. I got stuff there. I gotta get done. She stuttered and mumbled through, trying to explain to him her position in this. Sarman snorted. He didn't explain what happened. Yeah, he did. I was there to have his freaking kid. I didn't happen in the set time and that contract ran out. Now I'm done and I gotta get home and live my life. I didn't ask for the money that he should have given me for that time wasted. All I did was leave, and as my contract, well, the contract said I could leave. I have even kept my mouth shut about the situation. The situation I'm not supposed to talk about. She looked around her, knowing he would understand what she was not saying. He truly did not explain this to you, did he? You were running not from him, but from the truth of what came to pass. You are running from what you fear will come if you give him the time to speak the truth. Sarman was getting on her nerves, hoping for what she knew wouldn't happen. She tried shrugging him off. I filled my end of this. Now get off me. I just want to go home and live my life. I gave my word that I will return you with me. His voice was low as he added, do not make this harder than it needs to be, Corry. How did you find me anyway? She spat, not sure what else to say to him right now. He was soft with her as he answered. There were only so many places you could have gone. We have people at all ends of the paths you may have taken. We are tired of chasing you. It's time to come home and face him. No, it's time you just kill me because I'm never going back. I got me to go home. There's stuff there I gots to get done. You don't understand. It's important I go back. There's just, well, I just gotta go back to my home, not yours. Her head started spinning as her vision closed down on her. She hadn't even felt the prick of whatever he had drugged her with. Damn it. She had lost this time. And it wasn't a small loss to her. It was the biggest loss she would ever face. When her head started clearing, Corry could feel the motion of the vehicle she was in. She didn't know how they were traveling, but she knew they were moving. Opening her eyes just a little, she was able to see that she was in a cabin of a private plane. She wished she could say that she was surprised by this, but she wasn't. She was sure this was the same plane they had brought her in the first time they had taken her and the others to that secluded mountain. If she were to guess, they would land and then get into a helicopter to make the last of the flight up the mountain to where there wasn't enough space to land a plane. She heard a gruff voice next to her. Rink! She closed her eyes firmly, refusing to move or acknowledge that she was awake. She didn't feel like dealing with them, and she wasn't in the mood to listen to them telling her how wrong she was for leaving. They had let the others go. She hadn't seen them in a long time, so they must have let them go back home. So why had she been the only one that they forced to stay on that mountain? It wasn't right. Sarman snorted. Just sit down. She's groggy and in a mood to match my brother's. She was wrong in running. Sarman didn't argue, only kept them from speaking more. She has her reasons, as does he. They need time to speak, and we need to allow them to work this out. Everything was quiet again, as they all seemed to ignore her and each other. She knew it had to be at least an hour or longer before they landed. Sarman knelt next to her as he softly offered, You may walk to the copter, or I will carry you up the mountain with me. Either way, you will face him tonight. Since there was no way out of this, Corry opened her eyes and glared at him. I know enough to truly piss off everyone up there. You know as well as I do that this ain't going to end well for no one. I need to get home, Sarman. You need to let me go. Sarman snorted. Yes, I know. But you need to understand that the next time you run, it will not be us that finds you. The next time, he will let the fire blood out, and you will be the reason a war is started. It's time we return home, and it's time you open up to him and listen to what he has to say. Sitting up, she muttered under her breath, "You may take me up there, but it ain't my home. This is nothing but a prison for me. You don't understand. I really need to go. You need to let me go." Sarmon groaned as he stood up. "You and me both, I'm afraid. But you are not going anywhere." Corry walked out of the plane towards the waiting helicopter before looking to the men around her. There were too many to ride in that little helicopter, and she knew that half of these men were flying up a different way. She looked to the ones she believed that were to ride with her before shaking her head. The one watching her terrified the crap out of her, and she just didn't want to fly in that tiny helicopter with him. A set of arms behind her stopped her from running. "She will come with me. Go. We will be behind you." Looking back to Sarmon, she snorted, "I never said I would go up with you." "Do you wish to ride with a pack of headhunting wolves that you have been evading for 2 months?" he asked, and she knew the answer to that just as he did. "Why can't I just go home? I got stuff I got to do. You don't understand. I got responsibilities." She muttered to him softly. Sarmon answered her just the same. "You are going home, and when you get there, I will force him to explain this to you." "I'm a failed surrogate. Why is he after me? It's not like I can offer him anything," she complained. "He will explain." She wanted to argue, but she looked around, only to see a dozen dragons, and knew it wasn't worth the fight. She was going back up to that castle one way or another, and right now those wolves looked a whole lot less friendly than the dragons. Either creature would be able to kill her in a heartbeat, but the dragons, for some reason, looked a bit less angry with her. The flight up was freezing cold. Even with the dragon holding her close and blocking out most of the wind, she had a reasonably heavy coat on, but it still wasn't enough when you compared the freezing temperatures of the mountain to what she was used to. If she was being imprisoned here, then she would need to learn to like freezing to death. When they reached the courtyard, he sat her down, and she couldn't stand. She couldn't even move with the way she was freezing cold right now. All she wanted to do was jump into one of the dozen fire pits around them, just to warm up. It was Sarmon who picked her up and carried her inside, saying, "I know you're cold. I will assure you some time to warm before you speak with him." It had taken her 2 baths and nearly all night to warm back up after that miserable flight up the mountain. She hated the cold. Why they thought that she should be here in this freezing cold place, she didn't understand. but she really, really hated the cold. Corry was half awake when she heard the door open, and she rolled over, refusing to acknowledge the person walking in. She didn't care what they wanted. She was not going to deal with anyone till they let her out of here. She was too exhausted to put up with this, and she curled under those nice warm fur-lined blankets, trying to keep as much heat in as she could. The voice that came this time had her closing her eyes. "We shall speak of your escapades." Corey refused to answer the beast. "Cordelia, this was dangerous. You cannot do this again." He tried, but she just didn't care what Novelle had to say. "You can keep quiet all you wish, but it will not change things between us. When you decide to ask me for the reason I brought you back, I will tell you. You will not have that answer till you ask me for it." She heard him walk out and was almost disappointed that he hadn't tried a little harder, considering he had sent so many people to hunt her down. Closing her eyes, she let herself fall into a deep sleep. Now that there wasn't anything she could do or needed to worry over, she could actually take the time to rest. It had been one thing she hadn't been able to do since she left here. The only thing left for her was to dream of all the regrets, all the things she would never have if she were back home. When she woke the next morning, she saw him standing by the window, looking out to the rising sun. He always knew when she was awake, as his words softly drifted through the room. "I have spoken with Sherman. I would like to speak with you over the misunderstanding that came between us. When you are ready, you may send for me. Your clothes are in the closet, and food will be brought in. I have decided that I will not fall to your game. I will allow you to calm and rest now." He didn't even look her way as she watched him walk the whole length of the room before leaving her alone again. She had no idea what this was about, but clearly he was holding back his anger. Taking a few minutes to wake up, Corry decided she just didn't want to trouble herself with the mess Novelle had brought her back here to deal with. If he wanted to play this silent game of cat and mouse, then she would be the cat that won the prize. She would be the one that waited out this game. She didn't need to speak to him, but clearly he was the one that wanted to talk with her. It would be intriguing to see how this little game would go. Her day was quiet, and true to his word, someone had brought in her meals, not once speaking to her. She had been given a very nice room that was larger than the first room she had when she was here. The bed was huge and covered in the fanciest sheets and bedding she had ever laid on. All the blankets were lined in nice warm furs that had helped to warm her after her frozen night flight with a dragon. There were 2 sitting areas in the room, a writing area, and she had her own personal bathroom and walk-in closet. With the bookcase next to the desk, she guessed she would be able to stay here for a few weeks before she ran out of things to do. Each morning for the next 3 weeks, Novell would be standing at the window, watching the sunrise. Each day he would walk out without a word to her. It had left her with more time to sit around, doing nothing but thinking as people brought in her food in silence. Today was a bit different as she sat on the Victorian chase, reading another book on the history of the dragons and why they could shift to human form. She had read this book twice now, but it was still interesting when she thought of it being a work of fiction more than fact. Nothing about how humans turning into dragons felt real or believable. Still, she had seen it with her own eyes more than once. When Sarman walked in looking frustrated, she knew things were going to change for her. She didn't speak to him or look his way as he marched towards her looking furious. Something was happening that she wasn't sure she wanted to deal with. You are refusing to speak? You know this will not last. You need to speak with him and hear his explanations. Sarman raged as he sat across from her. Looking back to her book, Corry quietly answered, He has said nothing to me. After that first day I arrived, why should I say anything to him? What did he say? Only that if I wish to know the reason for why he brought me back here, then I need to ask him. Since I don't care one bit his reason for kidnapping me, I don't feel that there's anything to say to that dang-gone beast. He's nothing more than imprisoning me anyway. I just want to go home. And until someone let me out, I don't want to speak to no one. She answered in that tone that she knew he didn't like. Sermon sighed. He has said nothing else. No. And you have said nothing to him. No. Sermon slammed his fist on the little table separating them, drawing her eyes towards the man speaking to her. You need to stop the games. I play no games. I speak no lies, nor will I acknowledge I am more than a prisoner in this place. Her answer had the man's shifty eyes turning to those golden orbs of his dragon, and she knew she was pushing a little too deep into this world. You are not a prisoner here, he raged at her. Making her point, she looked back to the book in her hand as she softly answered, You may call it anything you dang well please, but the truth stands that this is a prison. A lavish prison, but a prison all the same. Until I can leave here, there ain't nothing else that needs to be addressed. His voice lowered as he asked her, You truly do not understand the position you are in, do you? I follow that contract that I entered into. I failed to produce that child for him within the set time in that contract. The end of that contract said I could leave, and I did, just as I needed to do. You people decided to hunt me down without justification. You kidnapped me and brought me back here against my will. You locked me in this one little room when I pointed out the truth of what you had done, and you yelled at me false accusation. I ain't no one that doing wrong here. You be the ones that doing wrong. I'm allowed to leave. I want to go home. My home, not this place. I was the one to following the contract and left at the appropriate time. I am in the right of this. Not you. Not him. Not those beasts out there. I'm right. It's my right to go home and deal with my stuff on my own. She stated, firmly believing every word. She could see his frustrations as he shook his head. You truly do not understand why you are here. You are blind to your own standing in this. Do you even understand what has come of the others? Corry watched as he stood up and headed for the door. When his hand reached the pole, he spoke softly to her. I will speak with him, but you need to start listening. I will not speak to him, and I had no choice but to listen until someone around here lets me go home. Now, please. He looked back to her, saying, You are not a prisoner, Corry. This door is not locked or guarded. You are free to go anywhere you wish. May I go home? May I leave this mountain and return to the life I had before I came here? Can I go back to my responsibilities and do what I need to be doing? She challenged him, full well knowing that he would refuse her the one thing she wanted more than anything. He didn't even bother saying the words they both knew. No, she could never leave here without them hunting her down. She watched as he walked out, groaning. It wasn't like there was a chance for them to do more. She was their prisoner, whether they liked the term or not. That night, Novelle came in, followed by the cart with her evening meal. It seemed that Sarman had spoken to the man that was keeping her prisoner. Still unable to speak to him, she looked down to the book she had been holding, more than reading. She wasn't in the mood to do this, and she knew he would expect her to ask him why she was here. It just didn't matter to her. She was a prisoner, and that was the end of it. She saw him set the food on the table as a servant walked out. He looked to be setting up a meal for two without asking she would join him. Cordelia, join me, please. I believe enough time has passed for you to come. Being stubborn, she sat there looking at the book in her lap, refusing to acknowledge him. He could use all the pretty words he wanted, but the truth was, he was her jailer, nothing more. So if she missed the meal in order to avoid him, Then she missed the meal. She saw him sit as he turned her back towards him. He took a few minutes before saying, "You may join me. I will not hurt you." "Let me go home," she answered, knowing that was the one thing he wouldn't do. His voice was soft as he answered, "You are home." She shook her head as she looked out to the darkened sky. This was not her home. She wasn't even on the same continent as her home. She was forced here because that beast didn't understand the meaning of a contract, and no one was bold enough to enforce the damn thing. His voice drew closer as he began explaining. "My brother believes you do not understand what passed between us. He believes you do not understand the reason we have brought you back. He told me that you believe you are a prisoner and that we are set on hurting you." Corry had to give Sermon credit. The man was good at getting to the truth. He was also the only one that Novelle would listen to. She knew Sermon wouldn't agree or fight for her, so she didn't hold her breath that she would have a savior within the ranks of these dragons. "He told me that I should explain to you the reason we retrieved you. He told me that you believe you are still under that silly paper's words that had brought you to me. Cordelia, that paper is nothing to the fire we share. The only thing you have not seen or accepted is that not one woman that was brought here under that paper has left this mountain. They are all here, settled with the one they will spend the rest of their lives with. Those silly papers are only to draw fresh blood to our lands. We send out those offers so that we can find good pairings for our warriors. What you do not see is that the only people that can read dragon ink are those who are always destined to return to our lands and join our bond. Cordelia, do you remember the ceremony?" He asked like she understood any of this. Corry refused to look at the man now standing next to her as she shook her head. She wasn't going to admit that she knew anything about this. She honestly didn't know why they were hunting her down. It's not like she was that important. Well, maybe no, she didn't think she was that important to anybody, not even this man. He knelt next to her as his warm voice explained. 3 nights after your group first arrived, you were paired with a set match. What we tried to explain that night is that the dragons can feel their mates down to our core. I knew the moment you arrived on my lands that you were the woman that I had waited my whole life for. That ceremony was not just to sort out who would pair together. The bonding ceremony engraved each pair deeper than your wedding ceremonies bond two like hearts together. A part of me lives inside of you. And when we are apart, my dragon refuses to settle. He needs you as I need you. You are my wife and the queen of Armonia. If you leave, my dragons will find you and return you to our lands, because you are their queen. You are my queen. I want you to find a way to make this your home, Cordelia. I want you to see that you are the center of my world. She hadn't expected him to say any of that, and the anger building inside of her came rushing out. I agreed to stay for the 3 months or until I had your kid. I never promised you my whole life. I want to go home. I got stuff me gotta get done back there. And you can't stop me. You can't keep me here like this. I need to go. Please. I just need to. You don't understand. There are things you just don't understand. He didn't show his anger as she would have expected. Instead, he leaned in and kissed her, lighting that hidden fire inside of her. It was only when this man kissed her that she felt that warm, loving fire building inside her like a raging beast coming to life. It was that one secret desire when it came to him that she couldn't avoid admitting to. She loved the way he could light her up and make her feel all wanting and needy. He picked her up as she stopped fighting. Before she knew what he was intending to do, he had her on the bed. When he pulled back to look in her eyes, his words were husky and filled with his dragon's rumble. I want to see that we can be together. I want you to understand that we can live happy lives in each other's arms if you stop fighting this. You are mine. You were always meant to be mine. Please, Cordelia. It is time to accept that you are home. I never agreed to forever. I agreed to. He pulled her into his arms as he cut her off. You agreed to carry my child. You agreed to accept my deepest secrets in the world. You agreed to accept my dragon. You agreed to accept me. You agreed to all of this, my queen. You agreed to accept everything I have provided for you. I never agreed to stay here. I never agreed to be more than a surrogate for you. I would never do that. I gotta go home. There's just stuff there I need to do. You don't understand. I gotta go back. I need to go back. It's important. It is. I just got to. Please, Norel. I need to. She argued. He rolled her to her back, pressing her deep within the soft feather mattress as he whispered, I never asked you to be my surrogate. I asked you to be my surrogate. I asked you to be my mate. She shook her head. I never would have agreed to that. I need to go back home. You don't understand. I got me stuff I gotta get to. You gotta let me go back home. His lips brushed over hers as he whispered, I understand more than you admit to me. You do not understand what I will do to assure you remain with us forever. I'm not yours. I belong to someone else, she pleaded. His eyes locked with hers as his words softened. You do not belong with him. You will not go back there again. We are bound together, my queen. You belong to me as I belong to you. We are destined to be together for the rest of our lives. She tried pleading with him. You don't understand. I gotta go back. It's important. I don't have a choice. I had to go back. That money was going to help me with, well, you just don't understand. I gotta go. You gotta let me go. His words were a whisper as he asked, if I can assure your life in America is settled, would you remain with me? You don't understand. There's more to it than just going back and settling debts. There's a more. There's just, you don't understand, Noelle. You just don't understand. I do. I understand more than you credit me with. Cordelia, agree to remain here with me, and I'll assure you have everything you desire. He cut into her words, and she knew he just wouldn't understand her situation. She looked to the embroidered cloth above them as she did everything she could not to cry. I had to go back. You don't see, I don't get a choice in this. I really don't get a choice. I got to be back there. Please, I just got to go back. Ain't no choice in it. Do you love the man waiting for you? He murmured, and she could smell the fire building inside him as the dragon began pushing through. Refusing to do this, she shook her head. I don't have a choice. I have to go back. His scorching lips brushed hers as he whispered his fiery smoke into her mouth with each word he spoke. If I can assure you have everything you ask for, will you stay with me? You don't understand. He stopped her words again. Sir Maud brought her here weeks after you left. She is waiting for you to leave this room and join her. Now tell me, will you stay? Corry looked at him, gasping. She didn't believe he could ever know the truth of why she had to go back. I have a daughter, enjoying her new nursery. Yes, Cordelia, I know the truth. I know that you would never remain here if she was not with you. I know that to enjoy our lives together, you need to secure her from the man that sired her. I also know that the courts granted her father custody because you do not have a stable life. Stay with me, and your life will be assured. Our family will be whole again with you in my arms. Tell me, Cordelia, will you remain with me? Will you find a way to let go of your past and begin fresh with me and our daughter? He purred. Corry was in shock as she looked to Novell. How? Novell kissed her lips as he spoke. Sarman reasoned that there had to be something drawing you back to that life. He searched for your reason to run from us. When he found your secrets, he asked to secure her and bring you a reason to stay with us. You kidnapped my daughter? You kidnapped me? Corry felt her fight leaving as she realized that her baby had been safe here for months while she had been running and not known a thing about it. Novell pulled her back as he explained. No, she was in the state's hands. It was easy to convince them to turn her over to us. I hold the papers that she belongs to me as my daughter, just the same as you belong to me as my queen, my bride. You are my mate, Cordelia. I want your heart. We were set deep before you ran. I believed you found heart for me as I pulled you into my heart. Novell laid back, and she was stunned at the things he had done for her. It took her a minute to realize the depths he had taken for her. The truth was something she always ran from. She didn't want anyone to understand the truth about her secrets, and still this man was breaking them down one by one. Her pain was leaking from her eyes as she began accepting that she couldn't hide the truth from him. She couldn't hide anything from him. She felt him wipe the tear from her temple as he asked her, Did you run from me because your heart was in America, or because you were afraid your heart was here? Corry looked to him and said, Both? You didn't want to leave, but she drew you to go. Corry nodded, seeing the truth for what it was. She wasn't willing to give up her daughter. The only reason she had come here was to earn enough money to get her baby back. She never meant to let him warm her heart like this. She never meant to allow her feelings to develop for this man. She never meant to stay here. She just needed to get the money to... He pulled her into him again as he asked her, Did you feel the love for me that I have found for you? Corry nodded, not sure she could lie to herself at this point. Do you want to stay with me? He quietly asked her. The weight of his words were pressing her down as she admitted, I never want to leave. I just didn't have a choice. She's my whole world. You know, she's the center of everything. She was the only reason I even considered doing this. She's my world. I just couldn't leave her back here with him. That he's a monster. He beat me. He beat her. You couldn't understand the pain. I never really wanted to leave. Not really. Now you have a choice. If you ask to leave, I will allow it. If you ask to take the daughter I adopted, I will not permit that. Stay with us or return home. It is now your choice. His words were not a threat or something she expected after everything that happened. She saw him sitting up, and she had to know. Why do you do this? You didn't have to do this. Why did you? He looked to her, and she couldn't read him this time. You are my surrogate, my mate. If you had trusted me, I would have brought her to you. There is nothing I won't do for you, Cordelia. You are my heart. My very life depends on you to fill that heart with the love and affection that only you could bring. You are my queen. She reached for him as she admitted, I didn't have a choice. I needed to go back to her. It wasn't because I didn't want to be here with you. I needed to go back to her. She needs me. Hers need me. Do you still wish to leave? He asked her again, and the weight of that question was pulling on her heart. She tried to pull him down to lay next to her, but he didn't move. The tears were falling faster as she admitted, I never really wanted to go. I just had to. She needed me. I just couldn't stay. I just couldn't. Leave a part of your heart in a harsh world far from your love. He finished her thoughts for her. Corry nodded as she continued. I just wanted to be together. I never believed you would understand why I did all of this. You did it to protect family, as I had you brought back to protect my family. He admitted his reason for having his people hunt her down. No, Belle, I'm sorry. I just needed the money to save her. You don't understand how things work out there. Corry sniffed as she pleaded with him to understand why she was doing this. I understand why you ran. Do you know why I have done what was needed to bring you back? I didn't know. I didn't know you could help me. I was told not to tell you about her, or you wouldn't allow me to work for you like this. You wouldn't let me be the surrogate. How you know about my position? Corry was fully crying at this point. We use our ancient language to protect what we treasure. Sarman explained your lack of understanding, and I agree we should have done this alone. Today you have the choice. Do you wish to remain with me, or are you going to return to that country you call home? He asked again, firm to his desire to hear her words on this. Her words were cut off by a knocking on the door. Novelle stood up and she watched as he walked across the room. When the door was open, a woman was there saying, "She's not coming this time." Before the woman finished, she saw her baby running into the room. An instinct kicked in as Corry got up and went over to pick up her little girl. It had been almost 9 months since Corry had seen her, and nearly a year since she held her baby in her arms. Crying, she managed, "Belly, belly, baby belly, where in my arms you belong. My belly, belly, baby belly, where in my arms you will always hear my song." Her 2-year-old little girl smiled as she rested her head on Corry's shoulder, instantly closing her eyes. She heard Novelle assure the woman, "I will keep her here tonight. Have a good rest." She felt his arms around her waist as she said, "I won't lie. I did have deep feeling for you. I just love her more. I don't want to choose. I don't want to go back without her. I just want to have both. I want you and I want her. It's just, she's innocent. She couldn't fight for herself. I couldn't admit how I was feeling for you and still know where she was and the bad that was happening to her. I know it's selfish, but I want to be with you and I won't live without my baby Belle." His voice softened as he asked her, "Can you find a way to love me, dragon and man?" "It was never about loving you. I only left to get her back," Corry admitted. He leaned in and kissed her before asking, "Will you be my surrogate? Will you be my mate, my bride?" Corry leaned into him as she admitted, "I was starting to fall in love with you. I really was. I really wanted to stay, but yeah, I just left to protect my heart so I could save my baby Bella. If I don't have to choose, I'll take both of you. You are the best thing that happened to me. Well, besides my Bella. But that was a different kind of love, you know? It's a mama's love for her baby. It's a different than the way I'll be loving on you." His lips brushed hers as he asked, "Will you be my queen in every way? Will you commit to our marriage? Have my children? Love both the dragon and man?" Corry looked up to him, nodding. "I'll always be here if you promise not to break my heart or keep her from me again." "A dragon's love is eternal, just as the fire that burns between us." This is the end for now. If you like this story and would like to hear more, then like and subscribe to this channel and leave me a message in the comments if you would like another installment of Corry's tale with her devoted dragon. For those who read my books, please note that YouTube will not permit my normal content. The works on YouTube will be spiced down dramatically to meet with the rules of this platform. I hope to see you on my next mini love adventure. I have a nice little series of dragon shifters just waiting to make their way to you. Until next time, dear listeners.